Greetings, my fellow free motorcycle thinkers. This is LLTV's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date, Tuesday, February 14th, 2017. Yes, so everyone's out there celebrating Valentine's Day, the Hallmark holiday, and like an ancient holiday from Rome where people do the little lottery and be making love and lust and all that good stuff, right? Yeah. For all those folks out there that didn't have any love or lust or anything like that, thanks for checking out my show. I know it's recorded, but I may do some live feeds when I'm a little bit more settled, but that's okay. And I'm at CJ's Lounge, located at 400 Southwest 1st Avenue, Suite 1 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, along the New River and near the Andrews Avenue Bridge. Yeah. So we got some folks here talking, mingling. We got a couple people in the back, it looks like. Yeah, they're kicking back, having some beers. Beer and wine place, too. So they're doing some microbrewery. And they got their corporate stuff. Budweiser, Bud Light, Coors Light, Corona. Yeah, so they got their goodies as well. But they're trying to enhance on the microbrewery, which is really cool. You know what's funny? The Idiot Box is on. They had Anderson Cooper to see her look. Like, I'm Anderson Cooper. Got that look like I'm the stud. And I told everyone I love men. And now my ratings are higher, allegedly. But, like, you know me, people know me well enough. I'm not going to go after them on his sexual orientation. But his reporting is awful, stupid, and lousy. And I'm one of those guys saying, I'm not that great of a podcaster, but I like to have fun. So I like to get people thinking, you know what I'm saying? And, of course, they're having this basketball, Timberwolves and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Of course, you got LeBron James. I'm not getting fouled. And, of course, you got Anderson Cooper talking about the Flint. National Security Advisor Flynn resigns. They're hyping this up, having climaxing. It looks like some of the people here are really erectified, okay, if you know what I'm saying. The experts are coming out. It's on Anderson Cooper 360. Please, like comedy from Comedy News Network to be exact. Yeah, well, speaking of Flynn, I was real critical of him making statements about Iran, about attacking Iran, like he has this imperialist attributes. But I know there's a lot of areas too. I will be very sincere. Sometimes they're going to try to throw more dramatic than accuracy towards this man. So, like I said, I'm not praising him by any means, but I have a feeling he may know a lot more about the clowns that try to go after him also. It's like a political cloak and dagger extravaganza, I would say. Because he is not remember, Trump's not a career lawyer. Okay, he's not like it's like a Pinocchio guy, Charles Schumer, or dumbed down Nancy Pelosi, or doesn't have the attributes of pretty boy Marco Rubio. And insane John McCain, CFR McCain. So I'm just giving you some examples. So I'm make sure I'm going after Democrats and Republicans that are corrupt. So I'm not partisan biased. All right. Well, let's just check this out, and we're gonna look at under the New American, maybe a couple articles pertaining to this. And it says here, this is Trump National Security Advisor resigns. And that's what it has to say here. This is by Michael Tennant from thenewamerican.com. Observe responsibly, right? Absolutely. President Trump's National Security Advisor Michael Flynn resigned from his post Monday in the midst of a controversy over a late December conversation with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. Flynn is accused of having given Kislyak insurance, or at least the impression that the incoming Trump administration will lift sanctions the Obama administration had imposed on Russia in retaliation for that country's alleged interference in last year's presidential election. The two men spoke by telephone on December 29th, the same day the sanctions were announced. The next day, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that his government would not retaliate against the United States Trump then responded on Twitter saying Putin had made a great move and adding, I always knew he was very smart. And of course, you got the anti-Trumpsters out there, spazzing out like kindergarten kids. So I will continue on here. The Flynn Klesiak conversation, if it occurred as alleged, could therefore be seen as a violation of the Logan Act, a 1799 law that prohibits private citizens from engaging in communication with foreign governments with intent to influence the measures or conduct of any foreign government in relation to any disputes or controversies within the United States or to defeat the measures of the United States. Okay, so I know a lot of people may have violated the Logan Act so many times on with Israel. Well, that's okay, right? Yeah, they're so special, of course. The Washington Post first reported on Flynn's conversation with Klesiak on January 13th. At the time, the Trump transition team stated that the conversation's purpose was to set up a call between Putin and Trump after Trump's inauguration. 2 days later, on CBS's Face the Nation, Vice President-elect Mike Pence acknowledged that Flynn and Klesiak had communicated with each other on more than one occasion, but denied that they had ever discussed the sanctions. Said it was strictly coincidental. The two had spoken on the day the sanctions were imposed. They did not discuss anything to do with the United States' decision to expel diplomats or impose censure against Russia, he added. According to the Post, as late as last Wednesday, Flynn was still denying that he had discussed the sanctions with Klesiak. The very next day, however, his spokesman told the paper that Flynn indicated that while he had no recollection of discussing sanctions, he couldn't be certain that the topic never came up. The Federal Bureau of Investigation started looking into Flynn's communications with Klesiak, which began during the election campaign because of the timing of the December 29th call. The Post reported on the basis of conversations with 9 current and former officials who were in senior positions at multiple agencies at the time of the calls. The newspaper continued, all those officials said Flynn's references to the election-related sanctions were explicit. 2 of those officials went further, saying that Flynn urged Russia not to overreact to the penalties being imposed by President Barack Obama, making it clear that the 2 sides would be in position to review the matter after Trump was sworn in as president. Klesiak was left with the impression that the sanction would be revisited at a later time, said a former official. A 3rd official put it more bluntly, saying that either Flynn has misled Pence or that Pence misspoke. Administration officials stressed that Pence made his comments based on his conversation with Flynn. The sanctions in question have so far remained in place. The Post did note, however, that several officials emphasized that while sanctions were discussed, they did not see evidence that Flynn had an intent to convey an explicit promise to take action after inauguration. On Friday, Trump told reporters that he would look into the matter. Administration officials were noticeably reticent about discussing it on weekend television shows. Trump ignored questions about Flynn that were shouted at him as he left a press conference with the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau Monday afternoon. Oh, yeah, another Club of Rome asset, Justin Trudeau. All right. Later that day, the White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer told reporters the president is evaluating the situation. He's speaking to the president relative to the conversation the president had with General Flynn and also speaking to various other people about what he considers the single most important subject there is, our national security. Asked whether the president has been aware that Flynn might discuss sanctions with the Russian envoy, Spicer said, no, absolutely not, according to the Associated Press. Flynn resigned Monday evening. In his resignation letter, he did not comment on whether that he had discussed the sanctions with Klesiak. He did, however, confess to having inadvertently briefed the vice president-elect and others with incomplete information regarding his conversation with Klesiak. I have sincerely apologized to the president and the vice president, and they have accepted my apology, he wrote. Flynn's resignation was probably the result of a loss of trust rather than actual legal jeopardy. No one has ever been prosecuted under the Logan Act. Officials told the Post that seeking to build such a case against Flynn would be daunting. and that aggressive enforcement of the law would probably discourage appropriate contact. They pointed out that prominent Americans in and out of government are so frequently in communication with foreign officials that singling out one individual, particularly one poised for a White House job, would invite charges of political prosecution. Indeed, as NPR observed, Flynn, whom Obama fired from his post as Director of Defense Intelligence Agency in 2014, he made enemies in both Defense Department and the Central Intelligence Agency, and thus there might well be unsettled scores within the intelligence community. The leaks about Flynn's conversation with Klesiak, the sources for the stories were all anonymous officials, be payback. Furthermore, might Flynn's and Trump's desire to reapproachment with Russia, in contrast to the intelligence community, ongoing belligerence toward the bear, be reason enough to target him? Hostility to Trump from Obama administration holdovers may also have played part in bringing Flynn down. Former acting Attorney General Sally Yates, who was fired by Trump for refusing to enforce his travel ban, was among those ordering for recording of Flynn's phone calls and warning the White House that Flynn wasn't telling the whole truth. Whatever the reason for his departure, Flynn is no longer part of the Trump administration. Lieutenant General Joseph Keith Kellogg Jr. will take over as acting National Security Advisor, the White House said. Interesting, huh? Like I said, interesting here. So, and of course, you got a lot of folks in here. They're talking about some of their views. It's an idea of bringing back the Logan Act. Let's start by having sessions investigate all the Bilderberg attendees to see if they violate it. Yeah, Compatriot 1234. That's a good one. And a few others, yeah. So, like I said, it's like, of course, here, one person, Marlene, goes, President Trump rip up that resignation. And Dean Jackson, contrary to reports, the Marxist co-op West Avalanche its populations from the 1985 to 91, the system within the USSR was collapsing. Communist Party membership was increasing, not decreasing, as the West public were misinformed. Even so, the West refused to verify the collapse of the USSR, even though the survival depends on verification should the collapse be a ruse, which proves the Marxist co-option of the West, since a non-co-opted West would have immediately verified the collapse. Quote, creator demonstratum. So, so a few things, like I said, I was critical of him trying to threaten Iran. I can find it inappropriate. But, like I said, it's more of a cloak and dagger fiasco, which you have to expect. So, a lot of people wanted to do a lot of double standards here, too, like even Acting Attorney General Sally Yates. So, like I said, you have to expect these things. And, of course, like I said, Comedy News Network, they're, like, manifesting on this, like, masturbating to the war gods, I would say. So, enough of that on this article. Next one here, going to be continued on. It's from Canada Free Press. I don't know how accurate this is. Bomb throwers, I would say. Says here, report, Flynn forced out by secret cabal by Rose and other pro-Iran Obama operatives. All right. Obama, wonder-kind Ben Rose began working on sabotaging Trump's national security efforts after Election Day. Ben Rose and other former Obama administration officials were part of a secret cabal that plotted the downfall of the White House National Security Advisor Michael Flynn months ago. Investigative reporter Adam Trudeau reports at the Washington Free Beacon. Flynn's sudden resignation Monday was accumulation of a secret, months-long campaign by former Obama administration confidants to handicap President Donald Trump's national security apparatus and preserve the nuclear deal with Iran. According to multiple sources in and out of the White House who described the Washington Free Beacon, a behind-the-scenes effort by these officials to plant a series of damaging stories about Flynn in the national media. Illy Lake of Bloomberg News had a different view. He rejects the notion that Flynn would resign because he lied about his conversation with Russia's ambassador to the vice president. To him, it's not even clear that Flynn lied. He says his resignation that he did not deliberately leave out elements of his conversations with Ambassador Sergei Kislyak when he recounted them to Vice President Mike Pence. Lake continues, a better explanation here is that Flynn was just thrown under the bus. His tenure as National Security Advisor, the briefest in U.S. history, was rocky from the start. When Flynn was attacked in the media for his ties to Russia, he was not allowed by the White House to defend himself. Over the weekend, he was instructed not to speak to the press, and when he was in the fight for his political life, his staff was not even allowed to review the transcripts of his call to the Russian ambassador. It's an interesting theory. But returning to Crudo's article, Obama National Security propagandist Rhodes, who bragged out about creating a media echo chamber to promote the botched nuclear non-proliferation agreement with the Islamic Republic of Iran, was part of a team that flooded media outlets with stories calculated to destroy Flynn's credibility. The operation primarily focused on discrediting Flynn on an opponent of the Iran nuclear deal in order to handicap the Trump administration's efforts to disclose the secret details of the nuclear deal that Iran has been long hidden by the Obama administration. They got rid of Flynn before any of the secret agreements even surfaced. Not long after the election day, Obama loyalists began to planning to derail Trump's national security efforts. National Security Insider told Crudo that the Obama people carried out a very troublesome and publicized series of leaks designed to undermine Flynn. Flynn, a source says, was determined to make many of the unseemly details of a dangerously unenforceable nuclear pact public that the Obama administration had deliberately suppressed to win the support for the deal. But now Flynn is gone before anybody can see what happened to the secret side deals the administration attached to the agreement. It is Rhodes, the National Iranian American Council, and the Iranian mullahs who are celebrating today, said one insider. They know that the number one target is Iran, and they all knew their little scared agreement with Iran was going to go off the books. So they got rid of Flynn before any of the secret agreements even surfaced. So that aspect, okay, it is possible. Probably even the Iranian people may not know exactly what's going on. So if Flynn, like I said, I'm critical with Flynn once again about threatening Iran and this and that. Okay. However, if he has the insurance policy, I say expose these bastards. If he hasn't. And you know what? Expose them, got nothing to lose, my friend. And I say that in good faith. And you know what? Let the chips fall and throw that bastard Barack Obama in prison on the judicial due process and his lackeys. It's time to get rid of these unmeritable politicians. Weed them out. If you got to start with Barack Obama, so be it. Okay. Next one here came from Armstrong Economics about California. They talk about want to talk about secession, leave the Union. Now what happened with the dam in Oroville? Busted out. California begs for money from Trump. There's a video on there, too. You can see for yourself, which is pretty good. It says here, on the one hand, it would be nice to see Trump tell California to go ask Mexico for aid since Trump is not their president. The California debt and unfunded liabilities exceeded $400 billion last year without a prayer of reducing this crisis. The California pension liabilities are way undervalued, for they are based upon high expectations that are unrealistic. Culprits lost probably close to $1 billion with this current rally, for they sold stocks thinking they picked a high based upon politics. The pension liabilities are probably 10 times what the state claims. If that is true, given $2.2 trillion GDP of California, their debt may be just under 50% of the GDP. Simply put, California benefits from a democracy in voting to perpetually live miraculously off of the socialist system with other people's money, which amounts to the California dream. They tax retirees without any regard for retirement, as if they want to earn is no different than a wage. It's one of the worst states one can retire in. They never respect people who have worked all their life and demand to tax every penny they get during retirement. While California politicians boast Trump is not their president, and Governor Jerry Brown bashes Trump along with Nancy Pelosi, they got a hat in hand and on a bent knee pleading for help from a man Pelosi says she cannot work with at all. I'm sorry. I find this totally hilarious. It's like Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Brown and Pelosi. These people are trying to start a petition to counter California's petition to separate. Those outside are trying to start a petition to throw California out and cut off all aid and want Trump to extend his wall, cutting off California. I suppose if Trump helps California, the left will still bash him and the governor will not acknowledge. Trump helped him at all, so it probably a no-win situation either way. California would be a Spanish-speaking state as a majority of the population is in less than 20 years. So, something to look at, and it's even like I said before, I'm not going to agree with Trump in a lot of areas. My values are different from his, but you're going to go around complaining and beating up on the support and so forth, and you guys support it over in that state. It's called burning bridges. And in California, your elected officials, your elected servants suck. They suck so bad it's disgusting. They're not freedom friendly. You want them to walk all over you. They think you're nothing more than numbers to them. You're a bunch of damn natural born human beings. Your natural born rights are inalienable. When are you gonna learn? They need you more than you need them. And one thing for sure about California, because they're all begging now to try to get more funds for what's going on. And here's the thing: they should always need to do: re-examine their oath of office. Article 20, Section 3 of the California Constitution, as it reads: members of the legislature and all public offices and employees, exclusive, legislative, and judicial, except such inferior officers and employees as may be by law exempted, shall, before they enter upon the duties of their respective offices, take and subscribe the following oath or affirmation. I, of course, to state your name, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So, how come California, the Bible of California, supports invaders? I will continue on here. That I will bear truth and faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. It's like double speak here, right? Yeah, like Jerry Brown. Or I get Linda Ronstadt. Who cares? You're still a lousy politician anyway. And that I will and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. And it says here, and I do further swear or affirm that I do not advocate, nor am I a member of any party or organization, political or otherwise, that now advocates to overthrow the government of the United States or the state of California by force or violence or other unlawful means. Yeah, they read this oath and it's out the window. Their comprehension is obtuse. That within the 5 years immediately preceding to taking of this oath or affirmation, I have not been a member of any party or organization, political or otherwise, that advocate overthrow of the government of the United States or the state of California by force or violence of other means except as follows. And that's how you look at it. Yeah, man, their oath of office. And what a bunch of hypocrites, right? Absolutely. All right, well, the next one here, speaking of California, is Oroville, the dam, off the grid news, pure chaos. 200,000 California residents evacuated, nowhere to get gas. 30-foot wall of water possible. An evacuation order that forced the 200,000 California residents to flee from a damaged spillway remains in effect, as officials hurry to try to finish the repairs to the tallest dam in the United States before a storm hits Wednesday night. Around 188,000 residents fled the area Sunday night out of fear that the water of Lake Oroville will collapse the spillway and flood an area that is comparable to the size of Connecticut. The concrete portion of the spillway is sound, officials say. Its natural spillway up to the side made of dirt that is in danger. The spillway used to release surplus water from behind 770-foot Food Oroville Dam during emergencies. Torrential rains and heavy snows over the past weeks damaged the spillway. The lake behind the dam has fallen 13 feet since Sunday, but the Weather Channel says there's a 100% chance of rain Wednesday night with totals over an inch possible. The dam was built to capture and store runoff from the mountains in 1968. The body of water it created, Oroville Lake, is the second largest reservoir in the state of California. The water is used to generate electricity, irrigate crops in the Central Valley, and supply cities with drinking water. Repair crews are using helicopters to drop rocks into the gap to try to stop the erosion. It would be a massive blow to the state's water system if they lose Oroville. Peter Glasek, a water researcher at the Pacific Institute, told the Desert Sun newspaper, the question is, will it erode away the emergency spillway? Will there be a big, uncontrolled release of water? Or they may be to draw the lake down enough to prevent that. The fear is that a 30-foot wall of water coming out of the lake will flood homes if the spillway fails, said Cal Fire Incident Commander Kevin Lawson. The Sunday night evacuation led to a scene reminiscent of the disaster movie. Everyone was running around. It was pure chaos. Evacuee Maggie Cabral told KFSN. Sean Dennis from nearby Yuba City told NBC News, nothing like this has ever happened. We just grabbed what we could, but not everyone could get out. There was nowhere to get gas, Jennifer Neff, an evacuee, told the Sacramento Bee. I called roadside assistance. I'm on hold with them now. Do we call the police? Neff and others were trapped because gas stations in Maryville, California were closed. Oroville Dam, located 65 miles northeast of Sacramento, is holding back more than 3.5 million acre feet of water. Cracks were found in the dam spillway in 2009, but officials claim they have been repaired. Well. It's a real shame what happened over there. Hey, put your thoughts and prayers to these folks. There's examples going on with in California. It's just another example that sometimes we get always political jacked up and go after people and be highly critical. We have to look at these areas as well. It's a real shame because even though I'm critical of the California government, I still there's some great people that live out there regardless. I chat with them a lot. And sometimes these cracks, you gotta always put things on top of what's going on. You gotta I would say keep it in check. You always gotta keep it updated. And I know too they do have sensors now. If they say if there's any hairline cracks, you can know it with thanks to technology. That'd be your best bet. Hopefully they can invest in those. So like I said, my friends, people out there in Oroville, California, you folks be safe, and may your guardian spirits be with you, okay? All right. Here's some interesting news here. Came from New American once again. Came out yesterday. And it says here, BLM agent in Bundy case accused of misconduct. And it says by Stephen Bias. It says here, federal judge Gloria Navarro has detained motions to dismiss charges against 17 defendants in the Bundy Ranch standoff trials, but she has ordered prosecutors to turn over an investigative report that could severely damage the government's case. The OIG, the Office of the Inspector General in the Department of the Interior, reports details several violations of federal ethics regulations, misuse of government property, misuse of a government position, and a lack of candor when interviewed. The voter wrote in a ruling this past week, at a minimum, defendants may use this alleged misconduct on cross-examination to impeach the agent. Las Vegas attorney Brett Whitby represents cattle rancher Clyde Bundy in the case. He charged that Daniel Love, shown in the picture there, an agent prominent in the Bundy case, is the same agent mentioned in the report. I'm sure it's him. It is him. Take care, bro. Whipple said late last week, if it's Dan Love, he's a primary figure in the government's case. He put together the plan. Oh, yeah. Remember they're trying to raid and harass the Bundys, okay, and trying to take their cattle? Whitby added that the report indicates that Love has no regard for the rule of law. Federal investigators claim that the agent, widely believed to be Love, wrongly used his influence as a federal agent with the BLM to gain benefits at Burning Man, a popular annual event which draws thousands of attendees, and then intimidated other BLM staff to keep quiet about his misconduct. Burning Man, held in the Black Rock Desert in northern Nevada, celebrates arts, among other things. The highlight is a burning of effigy, thus Burning Man. Nevada Assemblywoman Michelle Foray said BLM agent Love scoring a few tickets and having sex with his girlfriend in a BLM trailer at Burning Man is at least of his offenses. Okay, so your taxpayers at work, America. He's using trailers to make love with his girlfriend. Nothing new, right? This man is the same guy who threatened to use lethal force against American citizens and elected officials, myself included, during the protest at Bundy Ranch. This guy actually disobeyed a direct order of our state attorney general and beat people up and arrested them when he had no authority to do so. At that point, I think the right thing to do in this situation is to let our men who have been wrongfully accused of threatening the BLM out of jail and put Daniel P. Love, the real criminal, in jail for a very, very long time. According to the Inspector General reports, the BLM agent, which Bundy's lawyer insists is Love, was supposedly on duty for 24 hours of official work for the 3 consecutive days, but was also in attendance at the Burning Man event. Investigators claim that the agent intimidated co-workers not to cooperate with investigators, coaching them to say, "I don't recall," when asked questions. One co-worker claimed that the agent said, "You know, if you don't side with me, grenades are going to go off and you'll get hit." Michael Richardson, a spokesman for the BLM, stated the Bureau of Land Management takes allegations of misconduct seriously. These types of allegations do not align with our mission or the professionalism and dedication of our 10,000 employees doing essential work for the America's public lands each and every day. Sarah Gordon, an associate professor of law at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, opined that Love's behavior will certainly impact the outcome of the case. The stuff she said suggests that he's willing to cheat and lie for his job. While she does not think it kills the case for the federal government, it will certainly make it much more difficult. Anytime a witness on the stand, she noted, you can cross-examine them and try to impeach him. They can ask him about things that could show that he's dishonest. There are 17 defendants in the case, in which the government has charged multiple offenses, including conspiracy and obstruction of justice. Clyde Bundy's multi-year feud with the federal government and dispute over grazing lands on federal land ended in the famous 2014 standoff, beginning in the 1990s. The Bundy refused to pay the BLM for his cattle grazing on public lands near his ranch in Bunkerville, Nevada, located about 80 miles north of Las Vegas. The BLM ordered Bundy to remove his cattle, finally winning a court order in 2014 to seize the ranch's cattle as payment for more than $1 million in back fees. Love led BLM agents in rounding up 1,000 head of Bundy's cattle. Bundy reacted by using social media to ask for help to defend his land's rights against the federal government. Several militia groups bearing rifles and handguns showed up from several western states, including Arizona, Idaho, Montana, and Nevada. After a 6-day standoff, the BLM withdrew from the area, arresting no one. Bundy continued to use the public land to graze his cattle. This was following by a siege of the Muller National Wildlife Refuge in Oregon in 2016 by Bundy's sons, Ammon and Ryan. Arizona rancher Lavoy Findham was killed in the confrontation. The government made several arrests. However, a federal jury acquitted Ryan and Almon Bundy along with 5 other defendants. While Cliven Bundy was not involved in the Oregon episode, he was arrested for the 2014 incident in Nevada when he went to visit his sons. 14 others were also charged in that standoff, and they're all being held without bail in Nevada. While the alleged misconduct Dan Love may result in more than not guilty verdicts, there are deeper issues at play, largely ignored by the major media. Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution limits the ownership of land by the federal government. Congress is given power to obtain ownership of land outside the federal district in Washington, D.C., but only for the purpose of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. But to do this, the Constitution requires Congress obtain a cession from states with the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be. While this was generally the case within the original 13 states, and the states admitted into the Union in the early years of the Federal Republic. States add later, mostly of the west of the Mississippi, have seen large amounts of land retained by the federal government in the violation of this provision of the Constitution. States were to be admitted on an equal footing with the original 13 states, meaning the full sovereignty of their lands as provided in the Constitution. Sadly, the federal government acts as a distant landlord holding up 90% of the land in the western states. Even before the adoption of the Constitution in 1789, Congress, operating under the Articles of Confederation, provided for land to be transferred to states as individuals as quickly as possible with the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. Under this provision, states created out of that land found north of the Ohio River, east of the Mississippi River, and the west of the Appalachian Mountains were entered the Union as equals. So land policy of the U.S. government with the Bureau of Land Management violates 2 cardinal principles of our federal republic: sovereignty of the states and private ownership of property. In the case of Clive Bundy, he has said he was willing to pay grazing fees to the state and local government, but he rejects the notion that the federal government has any right to own land except for the narrow purposes found in the Constitution. I have talked about that too a couple of years ago on one of my episodes. So I'm going to continue on here. States have not consented to this violation of their sovereignty, a policy largely begun at the instigation of President Theodore Roosevelt and continued to the present day. President Barack Obama, for example, used his Antiquities Act to issue executive orders to seize millions of acres of land in several western states. The Obama White House justified this action by asserting, in addition to permanently protecting incredible natural resources, wild habitat, and unique historic and cultural sites, and providing recreational opportunities for the Bongonian region, the monuments will support climate resiliency in the region. The executive order will place these areas off limits not only to economic activities such as mining, oil and gas exploration, grazing, and timber harvest, but also recreational use such as camping, hiking, hunting, fishing, horseback riding, and off-road vehicles usage that the public has enjoyed for years. When Congress adopted the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, they made a conscious decision that the United States of America, begun as a colony of the British Empire, will not have colonies of its own. And today we have a situation in which Western states do exist in a semi-colonial status. It is to be hoped that the Bundys and others being prosecuted, one might even argue prosecuted by the federal government, are found not guilty in court. Agent Love's alleged misconduct increases the chances of an acquittal, but Americans should not be content until the federal government and its agents respect and follow the Constitution of the United States, which, after all, they are pledged to uphold. This will require the federal government to give up its lands and turn them over to the states and their citizens. Absolutely. And I remember some folks were like calling out Clive and Bundy, calling them a racist, all that, which has no merit by any means. It's self-explanatory. Federal government, a lot of lands are using it just for wildlife and all that. Null and void. Barack Obama's executive orders, use it as toilet paper. Wipe my behind on it and flush it down the toilet. And if Agent Love is what he is, one corrupt individual, let it be convicted on judicial due process. Regardless of what you think of this man, based on this article, he's innocent until proven guilty, not the other way around. But if other agents will testify against him, he'll be in hot water for sure. It's got to be done in good faith. But this Bundy case is happening right now in Nevada. It will be great if they be acquitted because of lack of bearability. Okay, well, finally, it came from Off the Grid News. Came out today. It says an American city banned gun ranges. Guess which one? By Daniel Jennings. Second Amendment advocates won a major victory in a major American city last month when the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals struck down a Chicago ordinance that restricted shooting ranges to industrial areas. The city earlier had passed an outright ban on gun ranges, but that was struck down in 2010. Chicago officials defended their new law by arguing that gun ranges attract gun thieves, cause airborne lead contamination, and carry risk of fires. The court disagreed. They've been watching too many Hollywood films, I would say. The city has provided no evidentiary support for these claims, nor has it established that limiting shooting ranges to manufactured districts and distancing themselves from the multiple and various uses listed in the buffer zone has any connection to reducing these risks. The court ruled in this opinion. The court also ruled that the provision that prevented anyone under 18 from entering the shooting range was unconstitutional. Yes, nannies, please think for me. The city primary's defense of an 18-age limitation is to argue that the minors have no Second Amendment rights at all. The opinion in Rhonda Ezell, the city of Chicago, stated, to support the sweeping claim, the city points to some of the 19th century state laws prohibiting firearm possession by minors and prohibiting firearm sales to minors. Banning anyone under age 18 from entering a firing range prevents other older adolescents and teens from accessing adult supervised firearm instruction in the controlled setting of a range. There is zero historical evidence that firearm training for this age group is categorically unprotected. At the least, the city has identified any, and we found none ourselves. Earlier case. The Ezell case arose after the Supreme Court struck down Chicago ordinance banning shooting ranges and criminalizing handguns in a 2010 case called McDonald versus the City of Chicago. The city tries to do an end around that ruling with a complicated scheme of zoning regulations designed to make it unprofitable to run a shooting range. Among other things, the regulations specify that ranges could only be in areas zoned for manufacturing and had to be specific distance from homes, schools, and places of worship. That meant ranges could only be constructed in 2.2% of the city, virtually making it impossible to open a new shooting range. This severely limits Chicago's Second Amendment right to maintain proficiency in firearm use via target practice at a range, the Seventh Circuit ruled. The case is attracting attention because Diane Sykes, who wrote the majority opinion, was on the President Trump shortlist of the U.S. support candidates, the Associated Press reported. Well, too bad for Chicago. Bunch of, go figure. You got people in there think they are more important than their own people. And of course, we all know they're constitutionally illiterate. They love reading their oath of office. Because they think you people in Chicago are that damn stupid. Well, according to Article 1, Bill of Rights, under the Illinois Constitution, we can read here. Section 1, inherited and inalienable rights. All men are by nature free and independent and have certain inherited and inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights and the protection of property, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And we'll just go all the way down here. Section 22. One moment. Of course, after hit 16 first, ex post facto laws impairing contracts. No ex post facto law or law impairing the obligation of contracts of making it an irrevocable grant of special privileges or immunities shall be passed. Well, that's no ex facto law. Yep, absolutely. And we'll go right down here on 22. Right to arms, subject only to police power. The right of the individual citizen to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay, Rahm Emanuel and you bend over Bob and lackeys. Can you understand that? And Section 23, a frequent recurrence to the fundamental principles of civil government is necessary to preserve the blessings of liberty. These blessings cannot endure unless the people recognize the corresponding individual obligations and responsibilities. And rights retained. The enumeration in this Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the individual of the state. Is that equal to the Ninth Amendment? So right there, all their baseless rhetoric is down the drain. And it's funny because everyone's worried about we're the laughing stock. Donald Trump's the laughing stock of the country. How about your mayor and how about the mayor of Chicago and his cohorts? I admit I called Rahm Emanuel the gonzo of mayors. One of the most corrupt, filthy individuals out there. You can just look it up yourself. You'd be surprised what you could find. And for those clowns in Chicago, those so-called servants, wannabe masturbators, they need to read Article 13, Section 1. No, not Section 1. Section 3, the Oath of Affirmation. It says here, each prospective holder of the state office or other state position created by this Constitution before taking office shall take and to subscribe to the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear, or of course you state your name, that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office to the best of my ability. Well, I gotta say this to the so-called servants of the Windy City. You love breaching your oath consistently, right? Oh, yeah. Dumbed down and proud. I'm not surprised if they rig their elections all the time, but, it's okay, it's Chicago. Well, people in the Windy City in the state of Illinois, you got to tell them to stick it. Laugh at them. Ridicule them. Don't be afraid of these ingrates. Because remember, they need you more than you need them. All right? And I'll be very sincere. And that is all for now, my friends. Thanks for listening to this episode. Plus, feel free to download and share this around your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you want to see something that's interesting I may want to check out or I may like. Whatever you do, please send your correspondences with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube. Oh, I goofed up. Nope. YouTube, Freedoms Network, Scene.life, and Minds.com. Or you can email me at RokiLuck3@gmail.com. And I'd like to thank the folks here from CJ's Java's Lounge for putting up with me. Sometimes I could be a little bit vulgar, but it's all in good taste. So that's okay. You could have told me to take a hike a long time ago, so I guess I'm doing something right, getting people to think. Okay, my friends. Once again, I'd like to thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.